Welcome back to the second part of my little screencast here on the Reign of Terror in 1793. We're going to pick up from March, okay? Because, of course, Louis has had his head chopped off in January. And we're going to have a look at some events from March and just go through the year chronologically. I'd like to thank Alpha History for providing some of the information that I'm going to use here. So I've tried to highlight some of the key events. So if you're at home and you have a pen, please jot down this. Hopefully we've been through these in class as well. So the first is March the 10th, and that is when the Revolutionary Tribunal is formed. This tribunal is very significant because when we think about the Reign of Terror, we try and think about how did it actually operate, what are the mechanics of the Reign of Terror, and the mechanics here are kind of somewhat legal means for which people can be tried and, of course, obviously executed, okay, or punished. As shortly after this happens, we see, of course, the Vendée. Now, we've mentioned previously that if you count the victims of the Vendée, we have something over at least 100,000, and some suggest that if we include the Vendée in the Reign of Terror, then the victims jump up from, say, 50 to 250,000 as well. Okay, and these particular people in this region of France are generally more religious. Okay, so when we looked at non-juring or refractory priests, okay, they would have had a higher percentage in regions such as the Vendée. Their king has had his head chopped off. The king has always been associated with the church. They're particularly unhappy, and they're unhappy, of course, when they need to, of course, be conscripted to fight in a war that they didn't really support at any rate. Pardon me. And, of course, they'd much rather be home farming, okay, looking after their livelihoods. Again, of course, during this time, farming techniques weren't as advanced as they are today. And to have, when you have fit, healthy men who, generally speaking, did quite a lot of the laborious work involved in farming, once they're gone, okay, what's produced drops significantly, okay? So they're not happy. March the 26th is very significant. Please mark that date down, okay, put it in your long-term memory. It is when the Committee of Public Safety is formed. Now you can just refer to that in the future as the CPS. 12-man emergency committee. A lot of people argue, and I would like to agree with them, that this is probably the most powerful group during this period of time in France, okay? We know later on that it's very powerful, that once we have Thermidor, they dismantle the Committee of Public Safety. Whoever controls the Committee of Public Safety controls a lot of France, okay? It is established by the Radical National Convention. I say radical because I want people to understand that the convention is definitely much more radical in the political sense and in its makeup than its predecessors, okay? April, what happens in April? Now, we've mentioned in part one that Dumouriez defects, okay? He defects to the Austrians. Another significant event is one of the early supporters of the revolution, okay, Duke d'Orléans, who's, by the way, his descendants actually get the crown, but I'm not going to sidetrack you with that right now. He's arrested in the April the 6th, okay? We have, of course, the convention. We spoke last time about how it was passed that Marat was going to be impeached, okay, for his material calling for violent insurrection, okay, aka Journées, which manifested in the September massacres, amongst others. And within 10 days, he is acquitted, okay. Pardon me, under pressure from the Sans-Culottes, okay, and the Enragés, okay, the enraged ones, and Jacquereau, etc. We have the convention passes the first maximum price law, okay, kind of an early look at communism here, where they fix the price of grain, okay. Again, I've spoken about the background of this fear of hoarders, okay, being behind the conditions of the new society, the harsh conditions. Guillaume in the National Convention established a commission of 12 to investigate anti-government activity in the Paris Commune and sections. I need to point that out because we've got a little bit of a battle here, a political battle. Okay, this Commission of 12 orders the arrest of the radical journalist Jacques Hébert, Okay, some of his followers, they are released 3 days later after pressure from the sans-culottes. Pardon me, the sans-culottes sections begin demonstrations across Paris. Okay, they demonstrate the removal from the Girondins from the convention. Okay, they demand this removal from the Girondins from the National Convention to purge government bodies. They want voting rights. Now, that's very significant. Okay, these voting rights and fixed bread prices. Okay, so extending the price law to include other goods as well. Now, let's now look at June, so mid-year. The sans-culottes, joined by units of the National Guard, march on the National Convention. The convention orders the expulsion and arrest of 29 Girondin deputies. This was one of the events that some people consider the start of the Reign of Terror. Okay, it is the political purging. It's when the political purging begins. Okay, so if you look at it in that respect. Okay, they are arrested. Of course, we've spoken later on, they are executed. One thing that's very interesting in June that happens is the second constitution. Okay, you try everything twice, you don't get it right the first time, you try it again. They have to do 3, but we'll come back to that later on. The second one, the one of 1793. Now, these dates should be easy to remember. 1789 is Dormac, 1791, so every 2 years. 1791 is the first constitution, okay, it establishes the constitutional monarchy. Of course, that's not going to work when you don't have a king to rule. So 1793 is the second constitution, second official constitution. It's known as Jacobin Constitution. It is the most radical in a lot of respects. It allows more people to have rights. There's no distinction between active and passive. Unfortunately, women cannot vote. But the interesting thing is, we'll see later on, they have to suspend the constitution after a very short period of time. This constitution, by the way, is the one that when Saint-Just and Robespierre are sitting in their cell the night before their execution, Saint-Just points to a copy of this constitution and says, hey, at least we did that. And there are some liberties. So when we try to assess the French Revolution and how successful the society was living up to its aims, this is one where we can give it a tick. Okay. July. Okay. Then of course we have the last of the events. Okay, that can be considered kind of like the start of the Reign of Terror was when Marat is stabbed by Charlotte Corday. Okay, we've spoken about that after being inspired particularly by the Federalist revolts and that movement. Okay. He becomes a saint. He's martyred. Okay, he's the first saint of the revolution. In fact, during the de-Christianization campaign, we've looked at that they destroy relics of previous Christian saints. By the way, his heart is hung, I think, from the ceiling in the Jacobin Club in Paris, the main Jacobin Club. Okay, and society is becoming more radical. Have a look at what the conventions do. In July 17th, they ordered the abolition of feudal rights and dues without compensation and immediately. Okay, in Lyon, okay, one of the regions, provincial regions of France, the Jacobin mayor is executed by the people. Okay, so there is a counter-revolutionary movement. Okay, it's not one united movement, but nonetheless, it is counter-revolutionary in this region. They execute the Jacobin mayor. And I think something very significant is July the 27th, Robespierre, of course, and his little wingman, Saint-Just, are elected to the Committee of Public Safety. It changes his role within France and Paris at that point in time, and therefore it makes him probably the most powerful man in the country. And with his ideas that we've briefly discussed in class, I think earlier today, it changes kind of the nature of the new society as well. Okay, he's a republic based on virtue. Pardon me. August 21, the convention adopts the metric system. Okay, so there are some basic changes, nothing too exciting there. However, after the murder of the Jacobin mayor, Lyon, okay, is sieged by revolutionary forces. This siege results in extraordinary amount of bloodshed and violence. Okay, the city is ordered to be razed to the ground and almost literally wiped off the map. At any rate, it's an example of how extreme the terror can be. Now, remember, a lot of people associate the Reign of Terror with the guillotine in Paris and the cutting off of Marie Antoinette and Louis' heads, and it's more than that. Okay, and this is one event that you can point to if you need to write about it. August the 10th, we've got the Festival of Unity and indivisibility, celebrating the anniversary of the Trois Roues, the storming of that. Again, France are always into their anniversaries. Have a look how the culture's moving away from religion and Catholicism, okay, in particular. Remember the civil constitution of the clergy? Well, this is now extended in August 15th, and all officials are required to take the oath, okay, to the new constitution. And something very significant, which of course didn't come up because I'm missing it on the screen by that much, is the National Convention on August 23rd decrees the levée en masse, okay, forced conscription to support the Revolutionary Army, okay. September the 5th, we have sans-culottes and Parisian sections march on the National Convention, which responds with the famous quote, okay, by declaring terror to be the order of the day and expanding the powers of revolutionary tribunals as well. You need to, of course, remember the next date, and that is the September the 17th, pardon me, when, of course, the law of suspects is passed, and we've spoken about this. It almost completely reverses the revolutionary aims and ideals of many of the people that are actually involved in this, where we've got arbitrary, systems of justice in play here. People can be charged for almost thought crimes, to borrow from Orwell. Yes, and the scope of who is a suspect is definitely broadened, and this is a complete game changer as well. The laws of the terror also include September 29th, where the maximum price law is extended on all foods, okay? And we've spoken about Jacques Reux and the Enrage and their role in this too. In October the 5th, okay, we've got the revolutionary calendar which has been implemented. It includes 10 months. And these months are divided into 10 days, okay, 10-day weeks. And I think we've looked at the fact that these weeks actually are 10 days. So people don't know about Sunday. We had traditionally, even only a few years earlier, a very Catholic society where the day of rest was a sacred day. And part of it was to try and get rid of any kind of link to previous Christian France. Okay, people didn't know when Sundays were. The names have been changed. We've got Thermidor and Fromer and things like that, which the names also some of the laws when they're made. Okay, and society is trying to be created. This is a cultural change. Okay, Lyon falls by October 9th, and October 10th is very significant. They suspend the constitution, the Jacobin constitution. All these newfound rights are suspended, and that's because, of course, we've got martial law. I'm going to scoot through. We've got Marie Antoinette. She is guillotined 2 days after a trial before the Parisian Revolutionary Tribunal. Again, almost like a kangaroo court. She's accused of incest with her own son. Some horrific things, some crimes she definitely didn't commit. In October, okay, we've got the new calendar. Okay, I think I jumped to that a little bit earlier. And October 31st, we've got the guillotine of Girondinist leaders. Okay, Madame Roland, Bailey as well, Brissot, all these people who were very significant in bringing about the revolution. And this kind of phrase that, revolution devours its own children is quite significant here. November, Duke de Leon is also guillotined. We can see the cultural changes as well. Festival of Liberty is declared. We're going to have a look more about Robespierre and his influence, particularly extending into 1794. An example is the Paris Commune closes the city's churches. Notre Dame is no longer known as the Notre Dame. It is now called the Temple of Reason. Okay, reason, of course, and liberty being the two new gods. December, Republican forces gain the upper hand over the rebellious peasants in the Vendée. I've mentioned Vendée is almost like a bit of a Vietnam situation. We've got the local peasants. They don't, the revolutionary forces are struggling against them. They know the lay of the land. They don't know who's for them, who's against them, when they can be attacked, when they can't. But by the end of 1793, they do get the upper hand. And just to finish off, December that year, we have Law of Fromer, okay, which further increases the power of the Committee of Public Safety, the CPS. This is one of the most extreme laws in the Reign of Terror. I do encourage you to go over it. Thank you. That is 1793. Hopefully that's helped you get a bit of an understanding of some of the events of the Reign of Terror.